Good evening, fam. Welcome back to another Hot Choccy Chat.
Hot Choccy Chats. We're gonna chat and have some jockey.
Yeah, we are.
And it's hot. So hot. So hot.
Very hot tonight, and I had some vegan ice cream for dessert, and now I've got gas. So I'm not really feeling the hot chocolate tonight, but I've got to do it because we're here. Hot Choccy Chats episode 2. Now tonight's episode I wanted to chat about something a bit weird, something a bit different, something a bit unique, which is, I mean, my whole channel and personality embodies all of those things. You would have seen the title, Am I Psychic? Since I was little, weird things have always happened to me. I've seen weird things, I've heard weird things, I've just experienced a lot of weird things, and I actually sort of don't even want to talk about it because it's like 8:30 at night and I'm scared. Okay, you heard it here first, I'm scared. And I kind of just pushed it aside as much as I could because it really freaked me out. It really freaked me out. And if you speak to my mum, you'll know that there was this one particular house in which we lived that I would just run to her room every night screaming because I was just traumatized by whatever was happening in this house. Yeah, and look, if you want to know more about these weird things that happened to me as a child, I'm happy to do a Hot Choccy Chat with you, but now's not the time. I will literally have to film it in broad daylight. But let me know in the comments below if that's something you want to hear about. So I grew up really scared of like supernatural because I kind of felt like I had this affinity with the supernatural, or I kind of had not powers but just abilities, right? And I've tried so hard to squish them down and didn't want to know about them. Didn't want to know about it. It's too scary for me. Do not want to know about it. As I've gotten older, my belief system and all of this stuff and becoming more, I guess you could say, spiritual, I've gotten into things like manifestation, energies in the universe, and positive vibes and all of that good stuff. We all remember when the book The Secret came out, right? So that was sort of when the idea of manifesting what you want into your life came about to me. And from there I kind of just thought about it more and more, and it became part of my ideals as a person. As I've kind of embraced this spirituality and manifestation, my abilities have sort of resurfaced, and rather than pushing them away, I'm kind of like embracing them now. I know, I'm sorry. If this is all too weird for you, click off, that's fine. Completely understand it if you don't want to hear about all this. But I thought I would take you back to the first time I really had visions of things. Well, from what I can remember. So I would walk around, say I was walking around, and I'd get this really strong feeling inside, but also see it in my head that I was going to see a person that I hadn't seen in forever. Not someone that I would normally bump into. And I would feel it, I'd be like, oh, I feel like I'm going to bump into this person today, and I'd see it in my head. And lo and behold, that day I would bump into that person. And this started happening quite frequently to me, and it was just quite strange. The latest one I can remember is a guy that I used to see. He works away. He's only somebody that I saw a handful of times, saw him for a couple of months, and then it was over. But we remained friends. And I just had not seen him in forever. And I was walking into like a shopping centre, and I got a feeling, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna bump into this guy. And I saw it in my head. I saw his car parked there. I couldn't see it physically, it was just in my mind, and that I was gonna bump into him. Anyway, I get into the shops. I walk into Target. I'm looking for a new vacuum, and then I get a little on the shoulder, and I turn around and it's him. What? No way. Just 5 minutes ago, I just saw in my mind that I was about to run into you. That's weird. So these sort of occurrences have happened quite frequently in the last few years, I would say. And I started thinking the other day, like, what are some things that I've sort of seen in my mind that have come to fruition? Let's like really delve into this. And I remember when I was single after Nixon's father and I split up, it had been like over a year, right? And I was kind of over like the single life. I wanted to find a partner and settle down. I kept saying to my best friend, I'm gonna meet someone with a beard. I'm gonna meet someone with a beard. My next boyfriend's gonna have a beard. And I just envisioned this man, blue eyes, beard. Lo and behold, my next boyfriend, Tim, blue eyes, beard. The reason I wanted my next boyfriend to be blue-eyed is because I kept saying and seeing another son with blue eyes, because I've got Nixon, who's got beautiful brown hair and beautiful big brown eyes. What would a boy of mine look like with blue eyes? So along comes Zadie Bum with blue eyes. I don't know whether I manifested Tim and Zayd into my life or whether I just saw it or what, but that's what I wanted, that's what I saw, and now they're here. After this time, I'm starting to really hone in on the fact that I can like see these things, they're materializing into my life. It really started becoming obvious to me when I had a feeling and a vision that my best friend was pregnant. And I said to her, I was like, are you pregnant? And she'd not long been with her partner. They'd been together a few months, right? And she said, no, like I was bleeding the other week. And I said, are you sure? Like, take your test. I think you're pregnant. Turns out she's pregnant. And I knew in that instance when she said, oh, you know, I'm pregnant, in my mind I could see her with a daughter, and the daughter's name I could see in my head. I just can't even explain it, but just seeing it in my head, I could picture all of this in my head, that she was having a daughter and the name was La La La. You're probably watching this, bestie. I can't remember whether I said to you, you're gonna have a girl, she's gonna have red hair, or whether when you found out what you were having, I was like, yeah, I knew you were having a girl, I just knew it. She's gonna be red hair and I see her name as La La La. And anyway, she took that name back to her partner because they had been tossing around names and hadn't really agreed on anything. And her partner was like, I love that name. And she was like, I love that name too. My bestie has a girl. When she's born, they use the name that I saw in my head, and she's got ginger hair. What is that? What is it? I don't even know. And so began the gender predictions. I would see girls on social media that were on like my friends list, and I'd see their Instagram or something, and I'd be like, I have a feeling she's pregnant. And within a week, there'd be a pregnancy announcement every time. Aside from the pregnancies and the little things where I'm like, oh, I knew that would happen. Oh, I knew that would happen, which happens to me constantly. I actually had quite a bad experience with my visions. And I've talked about this previously, that Tim and Zayd got into a car accident. I've never experienced a negative vision until then. To lead you up to what had happened up to that point, this was last year in August, and if you've been following my channel, you would know that last year Tim and I split in March. We were still not together at this point, but we had kissed, which I made a vlog about and discussed how he had kissed me and then sort of turned around and regretted it. And in that vlog, I talk about going on a no contact. I was like, nah, that's it. Like, we just cannot contact. It's too hard. He's just sort of, it was really difficult to be friends. He had actually asked me if he could take Zayd an 8-hour drive west to a place called Normanton where his mum lived and worked. He wanted to go and do that on his nights, on his 4 or 5 days that he has him. He asked me like a few days before they were going to go, and I said hang on a minute, that's a lot to be driving 8 hours there, just you and him, and then 8 hours back. And then if anything happens, you're 8 hours away from me. Like, it freaked me out. Anyway, he cracked it with me, had a real issue with me being like, hang on. That was around the time that he had kissed me. Between kissing me and then just wanting to be friends, and then wanting to take our son an 8-hour drive away, just them two, and then me saying, no, hang on a minute, like, can it be the next time you have him in 2 weeks time? And him cracking it at me. I went on this no contact ban. I was like, right, I've had enough. I said to him, you can take him the next fortnight, because I need to wrap my head around this and get mentally comfortable with you taking him on an 8-hour drive by yourself, just the two of you, in the middle of the country where it's a shit road. I was just like, look, stop. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I said, we can communicate via your mum or via your sister or my parents, whatever suits you at the time, but you and I are not to talk. So you would have seen that in that vlog titled My Ex Kissed Me. I said, we're going on I'm doing 30 days no contact because I just can't deal with all of this. So his sister lets me know that they arrived safely. They got there, no dramas. The weekend goes by. I get some updates from his sister, get some updates from his mum. Me and him haven't spoken for 10 days, and it's Monday. It's the day he's coming back, and I am so excited to see my son. Anyway, I spend the morning cleaning the house, and I'm done. And I go to put the vacuum cleaner back into my laundry cupboard, and all of a sudden this feeling washes over me. Leant on the laundry cupboard and closed my eyes, and I've seen Tim's car, a 4-wheel drive, rolling in the outback with Zaid, and they're dead. And then I'm like, oh my god, if that really happened, what the hell would I do? Not only would I have lost my kid, but I would lose Tim. Then I was like, far out. What if he's the love of my life and we're not even talking, and we're in this really bad place and we've been separated for months now? Like, that would just be horrific. And I just felt sick. Stepped back from the cupboard, walked into my room, which was like around the corner. My phone was here charging. I've looked at my phone. I've got a missed call from his mother, and then a message that says, call me. And the colour just drained from my face, and I just knew. And I called his mum, and she says, it's okay, they're okay, but they've been in an accident. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Is what I said to her. Because 3 minutes beforehand, I've had this vision that they've rolled a car and died. So in my mind, she's telling me they're okay, but I'm thinking they're not okay, they're not okay. How do you know if they're okay? You're not there. What's going on? Tim and Zaid have left early in the morning. They've driven about 3 hours. Zaid's nodded off to sleep to go for his morning nap, and Tim's just driving, and it's quiet. Tim has then fallen asleep. He's nodded off. I don't want you, the viewer, being mad about that, because I've already been mad about that. We don't need to be mad about that again. I'll tell you why. When Tim and I started dating, he lived in Normanton, but his boss was here, and his boss works between Normanton and Cairns, and his sister lives here. So he has driven that drive countless times. He has worked a 12-hour day or longer in the blazing sun, in the outback, and then driven 8 hours to come see me. This has never happened, ever. He knows that road so well. He has never fallen asleep, ever. So he's nodded off. He's only told me the story once, but from my understanding is where he was driving, which I know where it was, the road slopes off, and there is like rocks, boulders scattered around, because it's sort of like a canyon that you're driving through. Like, it's like a range. The road drops away straight away, and my understanding is he's nodded off, and as soon as he's just gone off the road, it's woken him back up, and his first instinct is Zaid in the back. So he's turned, He's tried to correct himself on the road, but also put his hand back on Zaid and gone so far off the road, he's flipped the car. His four-wheel drive has flipped. He has written off the car with our not even 2-year-old in the car. So where it is, there's no service, right? Nothing. So if they had been critical, no one around for miles, but there had been 2 cars not too far behind him. The first car got to them and Tim told them, go into service, call an ambulance, call my mother, we'll be here. The next car that came had a nurse, and the nurse attended to them and looked them over and stayed with them until the ambulance came. The car landed upright and it was all sorts of... Zaid's crying, Tim gets out, grabs Zaid, holds Zaid, Zaid stops crying. And that's how Tim knew he wasn't seriously hurt in any way. Aside from a couple of scratches that Tim got and maybe a bruise from the seatbelt or the dash of the car, I think Zaid had one tiny little graze on him. They were untouched. Untouched. How does that happen? How does that happen? How do you roll a car and be okay? How do you walk away from that? Anyway, by the time his mother calls me, they're on their way into Georgetown and then they're going to be airlifted to Cairns. So then I've got about an hour and 45 minutes to wait to see my baby at Cairns Hospital. And I've gone over there and met up with his sister and we're just waiting. And I was a wreck. I was a wreck. Obviously, I was a wreck. And then I see them. They were about to run out of fuel and had to go somewhere else after dropping them off. So they didn't actually land at the hospital. They landed at the airport. And then they got an ambulance in. So I saw them coming out of the ambulance. At this point, I didn't actually know what had caused the accident. And I had called the Georgetown police to see what went on. The police officer said to me, have you spoken to him at all? And I said no. And he said, well, I'm happy to tell you whatever you want to know, but I want you to see him first and have a talk with him and then call me back if you still have any questions. So I didn't know that he had fallen asleep. I didn't know how this had happened. I just knew that him and Zaid were in a car accident and were getting airlifted in a helicopter back to Cairns, but they were okay, which I couldn't comprehend. They come into the hospital and the doctor comes over and starts chatting to Tim and says, are you Tim? Yes. Are you the father? Yes. You were the driver? Yes. You fell asleep at the wheel? Yes. And he's looked at me and I've looked at him and I was just livid. Livid. And I just could not believe it. About an hour went on in the hospital to make sure everything was okay, but they were absolutely fine. They were literally fine. There was nothing wrong. And eventually, in that time, I had accepted that this could have happened to me. I could have done this. I could have fallen asleep on a long drive. It could have easily been me in that situation. So, if anything, I started to feel bad for Tim. So after I calmed down, I put myself into Tim's shoes and thought, this is the first time we've talked in 10 days. I have fallen asleep with my child in the car, flipped the car, somehow managed to not kill my child and myself, and now I have to look at the mother of my child looking at me like they want to kill me, like they're just so disappointed in me. So I went over to him and I gave him a hug and I said, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. And he was obviously very emotional. He was beside himself and he just kept apologizing. That was the worst thing that has ever happened to me ever. Aside from my father having a heart attack when I was really little, that was the worst thing ever, for sure. And it made me feel sick that I had seen it. And I was so confused because I know that I have visions, and I know that my visions are correct most of the time, if not 98% of the time. And I almost felt this shift in the matrix. Am I in a parallel universe where there's another time and place that they didn't survive this accident? And I get really confused about it, and I was really unhinged, obviously for the normal reasons, but secondary to these weird feelings I was having about what my vision saw and what the outcome was. And I invited Tim around that evening because it was handover. I was leaving the hospital with Zaid and he was going home by himself. And so I said to him, look, do you want to come around? I'll support you. Let's have a fire. We'll have a drink around the fire, and we'll chat and we'll cry. And he's like, yep. And he came over and we sat around the fire, talked to me about it in more detail, and we talked about our relationship and why we were apart. And he told me he loved me, and I told him I loved him, and that I wouldn't know what I would do without him, and he felt the same. And that's essentially how we got back together. We couldn't believe we had just gone through this. It was like showing that time is not on your side and anything can happen. Someone you love could be gone tomorrow. And ever since then, I've just been so scared to have another bad vision because I'd never had one before. So I don't know what is going on in this little weird brain of mine. I don't know what my visions are or what they mean. I don't know why I'm really drawn to being able to tell when somebody's pregnant, what they're having, even what their name could be. I don't know what that's about. But I just thought Hot Choccy Chat is where I can talk about it with you guys. Anyway, this has been long enough. I hope that blew your mind a little bit. And I'll see ya in the next one.